How's the saying go? Cooler heads prevail? Maybe that's why I'm failing so much. But without air conditioning, I don't know what to say. Other than I guess I'm a real hothead. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears and the Dungeon of Derelict Daily Drivers. We are here with my Project Prelude, and over the past few months, we have transformed this thing from a forgotten wreck to being a car that is on the road legally and safely, and is actually a really fun car to drive. Now in our last video, we replaced the shifter cables and a lot of little odds and ends that were bothering me about this car. And in this video, we're gonna take care of the last thing that bothers me mechanically about this car before we go and find it a new owner. I am talking about air conditioning. Now, this car's air conditioning is completely dry. There is nothing in the system whatsoever, which leads me to believe that we have just a failed seal somewhere. Now, the AC compressor that is in the car may still be good, but we're still gonna pull it and we're gonna take it to a shop for a proper rebuild. That way, it gets all new seals and it can be refilled with PAG oil so that it is compatible with R-134a refrigerant of today's AC systems. We're also going to go through this system ourselves and replace all of the seals with the green R-134a compatible seals so that when we get the new compressor in, it is all nice and tight. And also, of course, we're going to replace the dryer. A lot of these parts are still on order, but I do have a whole bunch of O-rings for AC systems. So we can actually get a whole lot of work done today, even before these parts arrive. So let's get under the hood. I really have no idea what I'm up against. I have worked on AC systems before, but I have done no preliminary work on this car. So we are in this adventure together. So in order to get to the AC compressor, you know what I'm about to say. We got to take this intake crap off again. Not only that, but we got to take this out. We got to drop the power steering pump. We got to drop the alternator out, and then we have access to the AC compressor, which is buried way the hell down there. So we're gonna have to take apart a lot of stuff in this area. Well, I've changed my mind. As you would expect from a Prelude, this is an absolute nightmare. I did manage to get the compressor out. However, this bracket that it mounts to causes a lot of problems because of the stupid arm for the alternator. And I wasn't able to remove the bracket itself, even though I removed all the bolts. So I don't know. I don't know why it won't come out, but it won't come out. So I'm going to stop trying. Curiously enough, it also had four different bolt lengths. So yeah, that's cool. So I had to take it out the hard way, which meant that the line for the high pressure side had to get disconnected. I had to unbolt it so that I could push it just enough to get the thing out of the way. And that, of course, did not stop me from doing damage to the radiator fins. Brand new radiator. Brand new radiator. Fortunately, I didn't do any real damage to it. This is all basically superficial stuff that you won't even see anyway. So, yay. The next step really is to take this power steering pump out to a shop to rebuild it. I don't know where to go for that yet, but also don't know how long that's going to take. That information will inform how we proceed from here. So I took the compressor down to US Air Compressor down in Van Nuys on Parthenia, and I learned a lot. The two people that run the shop, Angie and Sally, are phenomenal at their job. They know everything there is to know, and they took me to school on this air conditioning system. It's probably only going to take them a couple of days to do the rebuild on this compressor, but unfortunately, there's a lot of work for me to do. But on the bright side, we're going to be doing this right, and I have a lot more confidence than I did before I took this compressor down to this shop. So the thing that makes this job a lot bigger than I thought was not just replacing the dryer, which is, that's normal when you're doing this type of work, but I have to flush every component in this system, which means I have to go inside the dash. I gotta get my yoga pants on. They told me that I have to get this solution, which I've already ordered it. It's gonna arrive in a couple of days. And I can use just a regular old paint gun to push this solvent through the system. And then once I push that through, then I just air it out, blow air through, and the component should be cleaned. And I have to do that to everything. So I figure since the next few days of my life are going to consist of cleaning, let's clean the engine compartment around the compressor, because there's plenty of opportunity to clean, and we're going to take that. So right now I am focused on disconnecting all of the lines so that I can gain access to all of the O-rings. I have also dropped the AC dryer, and also came with it the pressure switch. The pressure switch attaches to the dryer. We'll go take a look at that in a second. I had to remove some of the clips for the fender liner in order to drop it down. You see in the front of the car, I've disconnected from the condenser core. We've got a line here. This one bothered me a little bit because I bent the line just a little bit, but I don't think that's going to be a problem because I didn't, put any kinks in it or anything like that. We'll know for sure when it comes time to pressure check this, obviously, but we're going to be okay, I think. I've got another one back here. We got this one up here, and then it connects to the dryer in 2 points as well as the pressure switch. We've got a Schrader valve here for the high side and a Schrader valve for the low side here. There's one more connection down here next to the battery tray. So I'm going to have to take the battery out to reach that. And then we've got the connection to the HVAC box, which is underneath the vacuum box. So the vacuum box has to come out, get moved out of the way. And then we've got a connection here and another one which is above it. So they're pretty close together. Here are the two dryers. They are basically identical, well, except this one has a little inspection window and this one doesn't, which really kind of sucks. Like, that really sucks that they're so different. But that's unfortunate. But we're going to have to take this off so that we can put the pressure switch on, and then we've got the in and out for the other side. It's just a bummer when you get new parts that are inferior to the old parts. I don't think there's anything I can do about this, though. I really don't. So one of the things I brought up when I was down at the shop was the idea of using a Sandin TR70 instead of the original compressor. And she said that, well, yes, the Sandin TR70 is more common. It's not a better compressor than what came with the car. They were able to look at it and just from looking at it, know that it was a Panasonic. Like, literally, that's how much they know about air conditioning systems. It was seriously impressive. So they said that the Panasonic unit is much better than a TR70. You don't want to have to deal with maybe even re-welding hoses and doing all kinds of ghetto shit to make your car work. Rebuilding it if it can be rebuilt, is the best way to go. And the one that I brought in definitely can be rebuilt because it's a low mileage car. All right, so we've got the HVAC box out. And as you can see, I really didn't have to take much out of the car. So I had to take out, started with this bottom trim piece, and then to take out the glove box, which is in the back seat there. And then I had to take this piece out. This piece was held on with one fastener on this side, and then there was a screw on the other side that screws into this piece of plastic. It kind of slips out. You got to be careful that you don't break things because there's some breaky plastic here, and it's not fun. The HVAC box then is actually just this unit right here. So we've got two L brackets on either side of it that just hold it there. That's it. And then we've got a bolt up here. We've got a bolt way down here at the bottom. This bolt down here at the bottom, this is under the carpet, so it's easy to miss. I missed it. And then we got another bolt on this side. And it's really just those 3 bolts. One on the top, 2 on the bottom. You got to unplug the drain for the evaporator. And then it just pulls straight out. It really is easy. It is genuinely easy, and I am shocked and amazed and delighted. It is so nice having a proper workbench. My God, this is life-changing. Look at how I have real space. I don't have to do it on the floor and break my back. And wow, today is a good day. Today is a good day. All right, so we got a bunch of clips here. And I don't know what I'm doing, so we are definitely in this adventure together. But I have taken apart one of these on my Miata, and it's more or less the same. It's the exact same concept anyway. All right, so we've got a rubber or a foam piece there that we're going to try to very carefully pull back without tearing. I'd like to reuse it if I can. Okay, there we go. Got another one over here. This one peeled off way better. All right, so yeah, we do have a fair amount of debris inside this thing. So it is a good thing we're cleaning it out. Yes. Ugh, gross. Gross, gross, gross. Okay. Let's get this cleaned off, and then we'll take the expansion valve off. Well, I got the compressor back from US AC Compressors, and I am very impressed. Let me pull this out of the box and show you just how great this is. Set the box aside. This looks really, really good. I could not have asked for better quality work. I mean, at least in terms of aesthetics, this is amazing. They did pre-fill this thing with 3 ounces. They said, after looking it up, that these cars take 5 ounces of oil. We're using PAG oil because that's compatible with both R12 and R134 systems. And we have to add potentially 2 ounces. One of the things that they told me was that the refrigerant itself may also contain oil. So, depending on what type of refrigerant we get, we have to find out how much oil is included in that refrigerant, if that's a thing that is included. And if it has some amount of oil in it, we have to be very careful not to put too much into the system. Because if we put too much into the system, it could break. If there's not enough in the system, it'll break. The same thing with pressurizing with R-134a. So if we're doing a conversion from R12 to 134, we're going to require a different pressure or a different weight of refrigerant in the system. Now, I don't know how much that is yet, but I do know that when you're doing a 134 conversion, according to them, it is 80 to 90% as much as you would put in R12. So you don't want to put as much as what's required under the hood. And that's where a lot of shops could get it wrong, and often do. And then lastly, when it comes to weight, it's going to be very, very important to precisely weigh this as we're filling it. And so we're going to go through all of this when we're actually doing the pressure testing and filling, but I wanted to talk about it real quick while it's still fresh in my head, because I learned so much from Angie and Sally that I wanted to get it all out. This is not something that I've gotten from any other rebuild, and I've definitely not gotten this kind of knowledge from any other rebuilder. So I'm very, very excited to get this thing on the car and hooked up and filled up. Really excited. Since we are still waiting for the flush, and by the way, since we're talking about the flush, this is exactly what they're talking about when they say flush it completely. You got this old brown oil in here. Yeah, we want to flush that out. We're going to do that as soon as our solvent arrives. In the meantime, we can actually put this on the car and put the belt on and get that whole assembly ready to go. We just won't be able to hook up the lines. So let's go do that. AC flush solvent has arrived, and we are now ready to flush our AC system. So this stuff is about, it's not cheap. It's about 80 bucks for the bottle, and some of it leaked out because I ordered it from Amazon, and Amazon is amazing. If you can find this anywhere other than Amazon, I highly encourage it. Now that we have our AC flush solvent, here's how we set it all up. I have here a paint gun, but this is a paint gun specific for painting frames. You'll notice that I've got this long tube that's flexible. That's because this particular paint gun, this tube is what you stick inside of a frame in order to paint the inside of a frame. You either paint it or you coat it with the oil that you use to prevent rust. The Wool Wax paint gun also came with 3 bottles, so I just picked one of the clean ones, and that's what our solvent is in. This is an extra brake fluid filler bottle that comes with the Harbor Freight bleeder kit, which is over here. I had an extra one, so we're using that. So I'm going to try to show you as good as I can here. This part I've already done because it was a nice, simple little piece. It connects here to the evaporator core. And this part, I can just shove it right in here. You want to run it, and you want to wear your safety goggles, glasses, motorcycle helmet, whatever. And so all you got to do here is spray it. You see some of the solvent came out on my hands, but the rest of it went through, and it comes out the other side. And you can, I don't think you have to, you can let it air dry if you really want. But I'm going to follow that up with air from my tire thing. And we're just gonna blow it dry. And once there's no more fluid coming out of it, wipe it down, set it aside, and move on. So next we're going to do the evaporator core. This is a little bit more advanced, but since it's on the workbench, this is actually a great opportunity. We know there is dirty oil in here, so we want to flush it out. We're actually going to start on this side so that it can come out this side, and I'm hoping that's going to be a really good example for you guys. So we got this here. I don't have a hose that's going to fit, so I'm just going to shove this bottle over it, and then we're going to blow the solvent through this side. And since we're going to replace that anyway, I'm just going to leave it alone and move it out of the way. As you see, it definitely is coming out the other side, which is good. So I've probably put a whole bunch in it. Now I want to push air through. And now that we've flushed it out one direction, we're going to flip this around and flush it out from this side out to here. So we finished flushing this out. We made kind of a mess because it got everywhere, but the benefit to it getting everywhere is that it is by definition a cleaner. So it helps you clean everything that it gets all over. So now our evaporator core is nice and clean. We still have to replace the expansion valve. We have the new one right here, but we're gonna do that later because right now we're focused on cleaning components. So let's continue to flush out this system. We're going to move on over to the car and start flushing out the components that are on the car. So now everything's cleaned up, and initially I made a big huge mess on the floor, but the stuff evaporates. So you can see it has mostly cleared up already. There's still a little bit left to go, which also kind of tells me that I don't necessarily want to put this whole system back together right now. I want to let it dry overnight. But there is still some things that I can do. Like for one, I can wipe down some things with this rag. The interesting thing about this solvent is that it seems to be really gentle. I don't see it peeling up paint or anything like that. So just from wiping up what has dripped or sprayed over the car has really made things a lot cleaner. So there's still some things we could put together. I actually can put together the majority of the lines. I just don't necessarily want to hook in to the condenser or the evaporator just yet. So for the lines, since they're so simple, there's really nowhere for the solvent to collect inside of a line. We can go ahead and put those back together. So we're gonna get some new O-rings on there with some PAG oil, and we're gonna start reconnecting the lines. We're actually gonna start here with the dryer. Finally got the little bastard on. I'm just beside myself with anger about this stupid Four Seasons dryer. I cannot believe that it was so difficult to reconnect. First of the problems being that the inspection window where you're supposed to be able to see the refrigerant running through, it's gone. It's not there. The next problem was that there was no O-ring and it was completely sealed off where we were supposed to plug in our pressure switch. So they just kind of said, yeah, screw your pressure switch. Third, this thing is a slightly different shape than the original, so it didn't fit quite as well. And I think that's what contributed to the difficulty I was having reconnecting the lines. Still a lot to do. I'm going to start with reconnecting the cruise control module, and then I'm going to move my way in. There's radiator fan, and then there's fittings on the front of the car, and also a bunch of nuts and bolts that I still need to reconnect. This is another thing that I've been putting off just because I'm not looking forward to the experience. The expansion valve, you need to cut along here. Don't cut into the tubing. That's the important part that I'm probably not going to listen to that advice. Unfortunately, it feels like it's coming off in chunks. Because it's coming off in chunks. So I'm going to have to find something to wrap this back up with. I'm probably going to have to take all of this crap off and replace it. I'm just not sure with what. Looks like this clips on. There you go. So the clip is reusable, thankfully. So I was able to find the stuff that you wrap around the expansion valve at O'Reilly. Of course, they sent me enough to do like 50 cars, which is, I guess, fortunate because this is not going to be the last AC that we work on. So let's get a length of this cut off and we'll start wrapping this around. It's going to be a little tricky because you have to kind of navigate it around things and around the evaporator core. So now that we got the tape on the expansion valve, we can actually put this whole box together. I've already tightened everything down with new O-rings, and we're going to put oil in it later on. We're going to run some diagnostics just to have that peace of mind. The first thing we're going to test is the pressure switch. The pressure switch is right here on top of the dryer. So what happens is when there's no pressure in the system, this circuit is open. And when there is pressure in the system, this circuit is closed. It's really that simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our multimeter on this, and we're going to switch it over to just do a basic continuity test. Now we're going to put some pressure into the system. We're just going to open up both sides because there's no pressure in it right now. We don't have to worry about anything blowing up. And we're going to slowly add some air to both sides. 50. My compressor is only putting out about 60. So we're going to go ahead and shut it off here. So this is what we're expecting. When you see how we see a 1 when we connect these together, we should see 001. So we're going to connect these two prongs together. And there we go. This pressure switch works. Let's get air out of the system now. So obviously when there is refrigerant in the system, you do not want to put your thumb on the bleed valve like this to let refrigerant out. You will probably lose your thumb. You'll win a Darwin Award though. Well, now I've got the vacuum pump hooked up to the manifold gauge set. And in this initial round of testing, we don't want to pull a deep vacuum. We don't want to pull a vacuum for 4 hours just to find out that we have a leak. We just want to pull enough vacuum to reflect in the gauge. We want this needle to go down as low as it will go within about 5 minutes or so. It's been about 20 minutes. Let's open this up. We're going to start here. If we open up the valve on the low side, we should see the gauge move if there is a problem with, look at that, look at that, look at that. Would you look at that? We're holding vacuum. Well, I realized I had made just a little bit of a mistake. That line that was connected to the pump was not fully connected. While we did manage to pull 15 pounds of vacuum out of this thing, connecting it all the way allows us to pull a little bit more. Well, I ripped apart half my car again. I heard a hissing sound coming from the compressor, and that really concerned me. I was also losing pressure, especially when I was using the high side, but I was actually losing pressure from both sides eventually. So I got the soapy water and I started spraying everything. At first I thought that I screwed up the connections to the compressor, and that wasn't it. I replaced those O-rings, put it back together, and still was making the hissing sound. I couldn't see any bubbles, which was the really interesting thing. So I was, using soapy water, and soapy water is supposed to blow bubbles when you find the leak. So I was like really, really confused here. And then I just decided, you know what, why don't I just start turning stuff? And so I'm hearing the hissing sound, and then I turn the pulley, nothing happens, and then I turn the clutch, and it goes like it just closed up. So I guess something needed to be seated, and it just needed to be turned to rotation in order to happen, because we're holding pressure now. So now that we're holding pressure, let's pull vacuum. Well, I called the shop and asked them about my little problem of air escaping through the compressor pulley. And they said that since the compressor was under-oiled, if you remember, we had 3 ounces instead of 5. It's very likely that not having enough oil is causing this problem. So they said that the next step here is to introduce oil into the system. So we have our chart here, and since we have completely flushed every single component, it is a safe bet that we only have 3 ounces of oil in the system entirely. So we need to add oil to each of the components that require it. So this is the chart from the book. The condenser requires a 1/3 fluid ounce, evaporator requires 2/3 fluid ounce, the lines require 1/3, the receiver dryer requires 1/3, and the compressor requires 5 ounces. And since the compressor already has 3 ounces, it needs 2 ounces. So we need to add a total of 3 2/3 ounces into this system. And just out of an abundance of caution, we don't want to just dump it in there in an arbitrary place like some other YouTube videos say to do. We want to try to get the oil that is required for these components as close to the components as possible. So here is a little chart of the flow of an AC system. So we have a valve here on the high side, and we have a valve here on the low side. And in the system, we want to add it before the components. That way, as the fluid moves through the system, it goes into the component that we want to oil. So we want to do that for each of the major components. The lines, we're going to add arbitrarily. So since I don't have the precision measuring equipment for fluid ounces, I have converted it to teaspoons and cups. Since there are 8 fluid ounces in a cup, I have a 1/8 cup measuring cup in order to achieve our ounce measurement. Now, in order to get the fractions of an ounce, we're using teaspoons. There are 6 teaspoons in a fluid ounce. So I've got a teaspoon measurement, and we're going to measure by 2 teaspoons to get 1/3 fluid ounces. We're going to use 4 teaspoons for 2/3, and so forth. So we have everything we need here. We've got a little party glass in order to dump our measurements into, and we will introduce the oil into the system from this cup. So that means the condenser, we're going to add 2 teaspoons. The evap core, we're going to add 4 teaspoons. The hoses, we're going to add 2 teaspoons. Receiver, we're going to add 2 teaspoons. And the compressor, we're going to add a 1/4 cup. I did something really stupid. I connected the hoses backwards. So I've disconnected the high side line over here, and so when I turn on the pump, it should start sucking out my glove. Jesus God, I hope. No, you're doing nothing. Okay, something's wrong with my manifold gauge set, because that if this is open and it's open down here, the hose is completely disconnected. This is open, so that is impossible. This is impossible. So something is wrong with my manifold gauge set. So in science they say, if the data doesn't make sense, check your instruments. Well, in this case, our tools were bad. This valve was stuck closed, it would not open, and therefore I couldn't do what I needed to do. But now, thanks to a little help from Harbor Freight Tonga, we'll be able to continue to pull oil into our system. So now that I've hooked this all back up, I have a new Schrader valve in my R-134a conversion fitting. We're going to start this up and see if we have vacuum. So this is, we're going to close it. We're going to start it up. Okay, so we are reading that we have vacuum. Now, once we open this up, we are pulling air, which we should be. So I can feel it sucking in on this fitting here, and should be able to feel it sucking in. Yes, I definitely can feel it sucking in on this side here as well. So our new tool works. We can continue adding fluid to our system. So we need to add to our evaporator 2/3 fluid ounces, which works out to be 4 teaspoons. I got a brand new thing of PAG 46, and we're going to add it into our little party cup. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to put just a couple of drops in addition to that, to account for what got stuck to the spoon and didn't make it in to the party cup. Let's go add this to the system, one shot at a time. Looks like vodka or tequila. Cheers. So this is a brand new length of hose, so it should be clean enough to use in our system. We're going to go ahead and start up the pump, and we're just going to drop it into this glass. Open. And we are drawing in air. So it doesn't take long. We just want to make sure that there isn't any left in the rubber hose, because when we take it off, we're going to lose some. We should be okay. We're going to pull this off and see if any got... Nope, not a drop. So we're good to go. We can continue adding more. Of course, we're going to have to add probably a couple of drops here and there, because we're going to be doing the same thing throughout the whole system. There we go. And that's going to work because the natural flow of refrigerant is going to be from up here down out here. So as the system runs, it's going to push whatever fluid that didn't make it up into here. So next we want to add oil for the dryer, and considering the condenser is directly before the dryer, I don't see much harm in just using the same method to add oil for the dryer. And while we're at it, we're going to add oil for the lines as well right here. So we've got 4 teaspoons plus a couple of drops. Lastly, we've got the big gulp. We need to add 2 ounces into the compressor, which is actually quite a bit. It's a proper shot, double shot. We're going to add it just upstream of the compressor at the low side line. So the idea is that it's going to run out into this, through this line into the compressor, and that will give the compressor all the oil it needs. It doesn't suck very well because it's going in the wrong direction from the high side to the low side, but I have confirmed that it does in fact suck. So it's a little slow, but it is working. There we go. I think the next thing I want to do is rotate the compressor by hand a number of times just to work some of this fluid into it. We have finished pulling vacuum for a good 2 hours. Now it's time to start adding refrigerant. So the book calls for a total of 13 ounces plus or minus 2. But since we're not doing R12, we're doing R-134a. With R-134a, you want to have 80 to 90% as much refrigerant as you would have in an R12 system. So doing the math, that puts us at 80%, we want 27.2 plus or minus 1.6, which means a minimum weight of 25.6 ounces and a maximum of 28.8. And at 90%, we want 30.6 plus or minus 1.8, which was put us at a minimum of 28.8 to 32.4 total capacity. I'm thinking the sweet spot is going to be somewhere in this 28.8 range. Basically, the idea is you want to get in this range to the lower end of this range, and then you want to check your pressures and your temperature. Once you find temperature, close it off. There's no reason to overfill it. In fact, you really don't want to overfill it. But like I said, I think our sweet spot is going to be somewhere around 28.8, but once we reach 25.6, once we get above that, we'll start checking things out. So now we have the weights that we want to put in the system. Now we have to check the weight of the can in relation to the amount of refrigerant that's in it. So this is a net weight of 12.2 ounces. However, when we weigh the can with the Freon in it, we come out to 14.2. I previously measured for 14.8, so we're very, very close. And then, once you have the weight of the can, I'm going to go ahead and correct this to 0.2. So we have the weight of the can with the refrigerant in it, and we have that recorded in all 3 bottles. It is slightly different. And now we want to get the weight of the can with the hardware on it. Now, it's very important with the hardware to orient it in the same direction. Notice how I have the line going down, and I'm going to rest it on the car just to the left of this bolt here. And then it's going to stand up here at 19.27. So that means that with the hardware installed at 19.727, we are empty at 7.27. So that's why I recorded this all on the bottle, so that it's nice and easy for me to just go ahead and check it while the car is running. So since these cans are 12 ounces each, and we're going to have a minimum of 25.6, we can go ahead and just dump 2 cans in. I don't know why this happened to my audio, but this is very important. So I'll just do a voiceover of everything I said. After we hook up the hardware, we need to purge the air from the yellow line. Then we record the connected weight. When we're done with the can, we again record the weight on the can without the hardware so that we know exactly how much we put into the system. Then we'll use that data to know how much to use from the 3rd bottle. We're ready to start adding refrigerant to the system. Notice I'm wearing safety glasses and gloves. This is because you do not want the stuff getting in your eyes or on your skin. It will blind you or give you frostbite. First, we're going to triple check that all of our connections are closed, both on the manifold and at the Schrader valves. Then we're going to connect the valves, leaving them closed. We then hook up the yellow line to our valve on the refrigerant can. Check one more time that all of your fittings are tight and that all of your valves are closed, because as things move around, fittings may loosen. Once you're sure that everything is tight, open the valve on the refrigerant can. Run the valve all the way down. Some valves require you to back it off a little bit once you've bottomed out. The instructions on the valve will tell you. After that, we need to purge the line because we don't want to introduce air in the system. We purge the line by using a flathead screwdriver to push on the purge valve at the center of the manifold gauge set. Make sure it's not pointed at your dumb face when you do this. Now that the fill line is purged, it's time to start filling the system. The book says you want to start by putting 10 ounces into the high side, but remember we're using R-134a at 80%. We're going to bring that down to 8 ounces to maintain our ratios. Once 8 ounces are in the high side, close off the high side valve at the manifold gauge set. You can leave the connection open at the Schrader valve. This will allow you to monitor the pressure at the high side. Just make sure that it's closed at the manifold from here on out and do not open it, because it will cause your can of Freon to explode, and that might ruin your day. How much does this can weigh? 5.21. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but these cans do have like a little safety mechanism in the top in case they're punctured incorrectly. So I went ahead and swapped them out with new cans, and just to be safe, I got a new valve, just in case the valve that I had was causing this problem. So let's do this all over again with these 2 cans. We got to get some weights, we got to hook it up with the hardware, and then start up the car again. But thankfully the car is holding pressure, so we really are close to success. That's a huge win if you ask me. That's more like it. Let's give the can a little shaky shake to agitate it. Agitate. Purged. Let's open the low side at the car. We're going to make sure our manifold is closed in both sides. We're going to open the high side at the car so we can keep an eye on our pressure. All right. Do one last quick purge. We're at 18.6, which means if we remove 12 ounces, we will be at 6 ounces. So let's open up this low side. So it's slowing down. I'm going to go ahead and tip the can over a little bit. Try to reposition our hose in the same spot. 73, something like that. This is progress. Oh my God, it feels so good. All right, so this can is getting really light. It's time to switch to the third can. So we're gonna close this off. We're gonna close this off. We're going to relieve pressure. Get a final weight on this can to know exactly how much we put into the system. So the can was 14.3 when we first measured it. It's now 3.99. We put roughly 10 ounces into the system. So now we're up to 20. Now we have our third can to do the remaining 8. This is where we want to start really paying attention to the pressure and the temperature in the car, because once we reach that, we're good. We don't want to overfill this. So this last can, 12 ounces of fluid in it. It weighs a total of 14.37 ounces, 18.67. So our absolute minimum is going to be 25.5. So we really want, at 10 would put us at 28. So we want to be around 13 and we'll start checking really close. Our pressures are starting to look really good. So this isn't moving very fast right now, which gives me the luxury of time, because I can go into the car and check our temperatures. And we're blasting down at, if I can get it pointed correctly, 59 degrees, 56 degrees. 51 degrees. Oh my God, I think we're good. I think we're good. All right, we are in go time here. Let's check our weight. I'm gonna get it down to 11, just so that we're in the 80 percentile range. Perfect, we're good. We're gonna shut it off. So in total, we ended up putting about 27 ounces of fluid into this, so we are well within the 80 to 90% range. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. And we are blowing nice and cold at 53 degrees, 50 degrees. We're getting down in the 40s. This, I think, is good enough. It feels really, really nice. Oh my God, we have air conditioning and a Prelude. So now we know what we need to do. We got to shut everything down, put everything away, and get this car out on the road so that we can go for a test drive. Wow, it feels so good to test drive this car after doing all of this work. I mean, with this AC project, I learned so much. Really, really grateful to Angie and Sally at USAC Compressors for everything that they taught me, because it led to a really nice, cool ride in this project car of mine. So let's go back a little bit and talk about some of the difficulties I faced. One of the problems that I had was that while I was pulling vacuum for the very first time, I was getting a leak. And after talking to, I honestly don't know if it was Angie or Sally. It was probably Angie. I think she was the one that called me back. It's actually kind of normal for AC compressors, the seal that is around the shaft, to hold pressure but not hold vacuum, especially if it's low on oil, which it at the time certainly was. There was only 3 ounces of oil in it. It required 5. That was something that I struggled with that turned out to be actually pretty normal behavior. In fact, I searched around on the internet and found that it was a thing that happened from time to time. It's not the most common thing, but it definitely happens. So they say, you know, you should be, you know, especially if it holds pressure, which it was, then you shouldn't have a problem with it. Speaking of holding pressure, you're not supposed to put air in the system. You're supposed to, when you're doing a leak check, put nitrogen in the system. Now, in my opinion, this system has been open to air for 15 years. Having it pressurized with air for 2-3 minutes, I don't think is going to cause any problems. And adding pressure was a means of not only checking for leaks, but also to check the pressure switch. I wanted to be sure that that thing worked. And we didn't run the car with air in it, so I think we're fine. One more thing that I learned is that being clean throughout this process, cleaning everything thoroughly and having a clean environment really cannot be overstated. One other thing about cleaning is that when I was cleaning the evaporator core, I actually spent a lot more time than I showed on camera. It was a good couple hours, because every time I turned the thing over, more fluid would come out. And I'm pretty sure it was the solvent, because it was clear, and it was very light color or clear, and not the old oil that had been in it previously. So I'm confident that I got it clean. It just took a very, very, very long time. And at some point along the way, I don't know if it was by accident or if I just don't remember, but I bought a brand new evap core. So I think in my other Prelude, I'm just gonna use it because, damn, that was a lot of work. And in my other Prelude, I've got a lot more miles on it. So it kind of makes a lot more sense to replace that one. It's also gonna save me a lot more time. Well, obviously that's gonna wrap it up for this video. This was a long one, but we really learned a lot. And it feels really good to have done it right and to reap the benefits of that. This car is so nice to drive now, and I can't wait to sell it because, well, it's gonna be someone's dream car. Someone is gonna take this car to a whole new level, and I can look at it at a car show and say, I put my hands on that. I fixed that car. I rescued that car, and I made it mechanically perfect. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you don't like what you see, maybe you saw that I did something wrong, leave a comment, because I really want to hear from you. If there's anything I can do better, I mean, please let me know. This has been a learning experience, and I learned a lot, and I cannot wait to do this to another car. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.